Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Heavenly Cross, and I'm sipping on some cinnamon tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, ultramarine blue, green oxide, deep yellow, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, Mars black, and fire red. And of course, you can switch up those colors if you'd like to. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 2 bright synthetic brush. And then I have a number 4 round synthetic brush. And I will just call these out as I use them, because small, medium, and large might not work in this case, so I'll just call them out as I'm going to use them. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to paint a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 4 round to pre-mix 2 custom colors. The colors I'm going to use in this step are black, white, blue, and brown. And I'm going to pre-mix a dark blue color and a light blue color. So I have magically pre-mixed those colors already on my palette so you can see where I'm headed, and I'll show you how I got there. So the first color here is my light blue. How I achieved this is mostly white. And then what I did was I added a tiny bit of blue to make it light blue, and then a tiny bit of brown to neutralize it and give it more of a natural kind of light blue color. And then I just spin it together and see if there's anything I want to do to change what's happening. So that's a little too dull, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more blue into that to just make sure it reads as light blue and not just a tan or a gray tone. So that looks good to me. So that'll be my light blue color, and then my dark blue sits right next to it. Just washing and drying my mixing tool before I do that. So this is my dark blue. How I got to this is mostly ultramarine blue and just a teeny tiny bit of black. Like, just add it a dot at a time, because the black will very quickly overpower the blue and just make it black. So just add a teeny dot of black at a time, and you can see it's almost kind of like a midnight blue type of a color. It's going to look lighter than this when I add it on my canvas, because the canvas has a white background, but it will deepen and get darker the more layers I put on it, and of course when it's concentrated, the thicker it is. So just giving you a little forewarning there. This is the color I'm headed for. So now what I'm going to do, I put my mixing tool away. I'm going to pick up some of my light blue. I'm going to have light blue in the majority of the center of my canvas, and then I'm going to have it coming up towards the top center, and then we'll use the dark blue around the edges and down at the bottom. So I have my light blue on my brush, and I'm just gonna put it in this big, huge area in the middle. I'm gonna, if this is about halfway down my canvas, I'm gonna come down maybe about another third of the way down my canvas. So something like this, and then just kind of bring it out towards those sides. I'm going to overlap with a little bit of my dark blue in a minute, but this is just kind of getting me started with where I want this light blue area to occur. So just kind of going back and forth, left to right, allowing myself to have kind of these soft edges along the sides of it. So that looks pretty good. Just kind of blending it out, see if that's about as far down as I want it, about there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start introducing my my darker blue. So I'm going to first do it down at the bottom. I'm going to not wash my brush. I'm going to pick up my dark blue, and I'm just going to intermingle it with that light blue area. So just kind of crisscross back and forth. A light brush stroke will allow you to get a little bit better of a blend without having too many, like what I refer to as cut marks, which is where your brush stops. I like to follow through and kind of lift off the canvas as I'm finishing that stroke. And then I'm just going to keep coming down towards the bottom. It is going to have little streaks and stuff in it, again, because you're working on such a light white base behind it. The canvas itself is white, and you're putting a dark color on it like this. The dark color will appear streaky. So don't worry about that, because we're going to be doing lots of additional work on top of this that will get that to smooth out. I'll do this back and forth, left to right, long brush stroke to get just some of that streaking out. And then up towards the top, I'm going to put my dark blue on these top corners. So this is the dark blue going on in these top corners. And then as I come towards this lighter section, I'm going to start picking up some of that light blue, picking back up that light blue. So something like this. Now I can pick up a little bit of the light blue and just kind of get those two sections to blend a little bit together. Again, they don't have to be perfect at this point, just something that's going to allow you a little bit of a transition. You can even use kind of a circular brush stroke at this point to just kind of get these two sections. But this is a really tough blend to do in one shot up in through here, which is why I want you to not worry about it being imperfect at this point, because we're going to, again, we'll do much more work to it to help you and me get it to look much better. But when you're going for a light to dark kind of blend, it does take a little bit of effort and a couple of steps to get it in that stage that you want it to. So once we've got this done, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the first layer to the sky. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are white, light blue, and dark blue. And I'm in essence going to take what I've already done for this footprint and enhance it a little bit. So I'm going to put my cloud formation is going to start a little bit below my halfway point. So if this is kind of my halfway point, I'm going to have my clouds kind of starting in through here. So I'm going to start with a little bit of white and my light blue in through here, and then just get it to fade down into this really dark blue. And then up top, my light source is going to be in this vicinity. So I'll start with white in through here, then I'll fade out into this light blue, and then we'll fade out into the dark blue. So this whole time I'm going to be using kind of a circular type of brush stroke, and I just want it really soft looking. I'm not looking for it to be finished looking yet. I want the back, maybe the sky to be nice and soft, but where the sky meeting the clouds and stuff in through here, that doesn't need to be anything perfect. So we're going to start with some white paint, and I'm going to start, if this is about halfway up or down my canvas, I'm going to go a little bit below that, and then just start kind of using this circular brush stroke to get this lighter section on in through here. And again, doesn't have to be anything perfect. Now I'm going to pick up some of my light blue without washing my brush and just kind of intermingle it with that white. Something like this. You can even kind of scoot it out towards those sides a little bit. Then I pick up a little bit more of, or actually I'm going to start picking up my dark blue on my dirty brush and using that same brush stroke. So I can just blend it into that lighter blue section a little bit, and think of this as clouds. So I can have some dark areas and some light areas without needing to explain it to the viewer, because the clouds are gonna have light spots and dark spots in it. So I'm not using a lot of pressure on my brush, so this is gonna allow me to have this really soft edges to these dark and light spots where they're meeting, just giving them this really out of focus kind of appearance. I'm gonna keep loading my brush with that dark blue and coming down the canvas. So as I'm kind of crossing over into the previous section, or I can cross over into the previous section, I, again, using a very light pressure on my brush, and that allows me to kind of feather it into the previous section. Down here, I can be pretty aggressive with the amount of paint that I'm using. I'm still using that circular brush stroke just so it emulates a soft atmospheric type of textural element to it. Again, these are going to be clouds. I'm going to have a little piece of land down here too. So I don't, again, need it to be anything fancy, just soft. I do want to go back to using white paint, so I am going to wash my brush before I head into the other section. So washing and drying my brush, give it a good squeeze on my paper towel, and now I'm going to start back with that white paint again. So my light source is going to be somewhere in here. I don't want to start pulling my sunbeams yet, so I'm just going to start the process of it being really light in through here. So again, just putting that white paint on and feathering it out with a soft touch that's allowing me to just kind of blend out into that light blue. Now I actually think I want this to come down just a little bit further. So maybe somewhere in through here. And then I can, and maybe a little bit up here. Then once I've got the area that I want, I can start picking up that light blue on my dirty brush. And you'll start to see how really soft it's going to transition into each other, because the light blue is not too much darker than the white. It's a couple of shades darker, but it's not a dramatic number of shades darker. When I go into the dark blue, that is definitely a lot darker, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then when I reach this like light area where the clouds are, I can bump into it. I can get that light blue to kind of, you know, kind of just blend into it a little bit. I am just going to use my light brush touch to blend this out just a little bit more. That looks pretty good. I'm going to now pick up a little bit more of my light blue just to make sure I've got it out as far as I want it before I start introducing that dark blue onto my brush. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to start picking up light blue plus a little bit of my dark blue. And this is going to give me these side areas. And then I just back it in a little bit to that light blue area. So if you feel that you picked up too much dark blue, you can always, at any time, pick up a tiny bit of light blue in order to get those two sections to blend. But again, don't feel it has to be a perfect circular blend or anything like that, because this is clouds. This is an atmospheric sky that we are creating, so there's no need for it to have that perfect circular blend to it. This is just, you know, kind of dark on the edges, lighter towards the light sources, lighter towards the clouds, and that's that. So I'm picking up more of my dark blue to go up in this left-hand corner. I'm going to pick more up to go up in this upper right-hand corner. And you can see I'm kind of staying away from where it meets that light blue at the moment, just so I can get as much of this dark blue on. There we go, that looks pretty good. Now I can start picking up my light blue, just a little bit on my brush to get these two sections to kind of talk to each other, like this. And then once the paint is on there, if I feel I have too much paint, too much dark blue on my paint, right, on my brush, on my brush. Oh, maybe I can do it down here, hold on. You can wash your brush at any time. So don't feel as though you have to muscle through this. Actually, I feel like I do want to pull this in a little bit, this dark blue, so I'm just letting happen what's happening. If it turns too light, too dark, that's okay. We can always adjust later, but I'm feeling like I'm digging this. I was a little nervous I was bringing the dark blue in a bit too much, but that's only going to amplify the look of my light source. So don't be afraid to bring this darker shade in a little bit further than you had anticipated. So something like this. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that light blue just to get this to be a little bit softer blend in through here. And now I think I want to wash my brush, just so I don't blend that. I like the darkness now, so I don't want to blend the light out too far. So just wash my brush a little bit, and then just kind of soften where these areas are meeting. And then you can certainly do another layer on this if you felt that you wanted another layer to kind of blend out anything or make anything darker or lighter. You can certainly keep fiddling with it as much as you want. I am going to be, for the next step, I am going to be using this same large brush. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the clouds. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 4 round to pre-mix 2 more custom colors. The colors I'm going to use in this step are dark blue, light blue, brown, yellow, red, and white. And if I use any other colors, like I'm debating on the black, but if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix 2 more custom colors, which one's going to be tan, and the other I'm going to call light yellow, which I have, of course, magically created on my palette here so you can see where I'm headed. So here's my tan. How I achieved this is just a little bit of brown and white. So no fancy mixture here. Think of this kind of almost like a beige type of a color. This is going to be used to build the dimension in our clouds. So this is my tan. So that was just brown and white. And the next color I'm going for is a light yellow, which is right here. Very, very pastel-y. Again, I'm going to be using it to build to my highlights on my clouds. So this is mostly white with a touch of yellow, which brings it into a nice light yellow, but it's almost too yellow for me this way. So I just added a dot of red into it. That's probably too much. Get some of that off of my brush. And it ends up being almost a pale peachy color, but it's really steering more towards a light yellow. So somewhere in through here, that's why I'm calling it light yellow, because it's definitely leaning a little bit more towards yellow than it is towards like the pink side. So that's what I'm calling it. Now that I've got my 2 colors, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of map out where I want like the tops of my clouds to go. I am going to have a little piece of land in through here. So I definitely want my clouds to be darker down in the bottom left and the right. I'm going to have some dark spots throughout them, but I want the lightest stuff up through the top. I might have 1 or 2 kind of floating outside of this big cloud mass. So I might have a couple drifting in the upper sky, but for the most part, it's going to be dark down in the bottom left and the right, and it's going to fade up towards lighter, the lightest of the light clouds right in through here. So I'm going to start by kind of mapping them out a little bit with my tan color. So just a little bit of tan on my brush. I think I want to have a big kind of cloud formation in through here. So I'm just going to take that tan And let's see, here's about halfway in my canvas, and I'm going to just lightly kind of create what's going to be the bright tops to the clouds. Maybe I've got a little in through here, something like that, picking up a little bit more tan on my brush. I'm going to have this whole area is going to be pretty darn dark in through here, so then I'm going to have some more kind of tops in through here. You're going to see I'm doing kind of a messy type of brush stroke right now, just kind of pushing the light part up towards what I want to be the top of those clouds, and then leaving this bottom part dark for a minute. You can certainly blend this down so it's a little bit with different tones, but for the most part I'm just kind of taking this light and just kind of adding some pops of it up towards the tops of these clouds. So as I get towards the upper area, it's going to be brighter up in this top center area, so I can certainly add as much of this tan as I want. The tan is going to help to illuminate those white tones that I put on later. So that's why I'm using it kind of as a base under a lot of these clouds, because it has more warm tones to it than that blue that we had on there, and the warm tones are going to make it look like it's more luminescent, like it's showing the light through it a little bit more. So I feel like I do want to have kind of a little floaty cloud somewhere in through here, so I'm just going to take that tan and kind of just start a little floaty cloud like this. You can of course make your cloud formation whatever you want it to be, but in my head I just didn't want the clouds to go all the way up, but you could certainly do that if you want to. So now that I've got an understanding of where I want those tops to be, now I think I'm gonna just come back to the bottom and work my way up from the darkness to the lightness. So I'm not gonna wash my brush. I'm just gonna pick up some of my dark blue and kind of go down in this bottom right hand corner and allow myself to put some of these kind of mid-tones in there. Because I didn't wash my brush, it is allowing me to almost get a mixture of that tan and the dark blue on my brush. And just, I can pop a little bit of this in through here. I am going to run out of the tan that's on my brush in a minute here, and when I do, I'll start working my way over to the left. So I want these clouds to be lighter as they go up towards the light source, so I don't need to get them really dark up in through here, so that's fine in through there. I'm going to pick up some more of my dark blue on my dirty brush, and I feel like I still have a tiny bit of that tan left, so I'm going to actually start up towards the top of this one because I want it the darkest down here in this bottom left hand corner. So something like this. And again, I'm still just using that circular brush stroke. It really works out well for me in a lot of different scenarios, so this is working out well for me. I'm going to do more of this dark blue down here in the left hand corner. I feel like my brush is expelled all of the light tan color, so this is going to be nice and dark down here in the left hand bottom corner. And again, this is going to be land in through here, so I don't really need to worry too much about that. So I feel like that's a pretty good start to that. So now I want to build my way into the even lighter colors. Let me just see if I can put a tiny bit down at the bottom of this. That looks good. It's getting stuff to blend out a little bit. There we go. That looks nice. So I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to start working on the light areas. And again, this is going to be where it's going to be catching the light from the light source. We do have another step that's going to set sunbeams on these clouds, but right now I'm going to start with that light yellow color, just a little bit on my brush. And if you're going through this and you're finding that maybe this brush is too big for you to accomplish what you want to in this step, you could certainly switch to a smaller brush. You could even use the bright brush if you wanted to, but I'm just using some of this light yellow color to enhance these little tippy tops and allow for it to look like these clouds are catching more of that sunlight. Maybe I have another one in through here, and you can see as I'm putting it next to that tan color, it's this light yellow is really popping a whole lot more than that tan was. So I'm just progressively working my way towards those lighter tips of the clouds that are going to be affected by that sunlight. So even up in through here, I can put more of that light yellow tone, and I'm not covering everything. I'm just kind of allowing myself to make these little marks. The clouds would be smaller as they're getting farther away from the viewer, so that would make sense if you got them to go a little bit smaller as they go farther away. In through here, I think I want to have these little kind of tops in through here, and again, I'm just kind of manipulating the end of my brush to give me these little kind of pops of bright colors throughout those clouds. You can make your formation whatever you want it to be. The whole key here is to just get the lighter edges of those clouds that are facing your light source to be the lightest. That's where the magic happens in clouds. They're so dimensional. They have so much texture to them, and if you can get a lot of that lightness to just kind of look like it's being captured by the sun, that would make it look more believable. I do want to keep a couple of dark areas in here just so I have that dimensional element. So I'm actually wiping my brush off. I'm going to pick back up some of that dark blue just so I can kind of soften the back sides of these clouds, but still have that dark blue appearance to it. So there's just kind of softening it out a little bit more in a couple of these areas. And you could of course pick up, if you wanted, a little bit more of your tan with the dark blue, whatever, or even the light blue. I said I might use a little bit of the light blue. So if you come into a place now where you're feeling that the clouds look pretty good, but you want to add a little bit more to them, that's where you could kind of introduce a little bit of the light blue. You could certainly make areas darker. That would make them look a little bit more dramatic. So I'm just going through and maybe popping in a little bit more darkness into there. I am going to add a little bit of white to my brush in a minute, but first I'm just kind of allowing for myself to do this in a progressive way, which means not too fast. Everything goes at a slow pace for me when it comes to doing certain things. Maybe even a little bit more down in through here. Gonna put a little bit more of my dark blue on my dirty brush. Just get a little bit different tone down here than I have over here. So that looks good. And you could even go into a different color if you wanted, maybe just a little bit of brown over on this side, just to kind of change up the atmospheric information from one side to the next. Don't be afraid to introduce other colors into your clouds. That's something that I do quite frequently, because I feel that clouds are made up of water and moisture, so they can reflect everything, so you can have different tones and stuff in them. So I'm going to wash my brush now, and I'm going to put some white paint on my brush to allow for the brightest of the bright up at the top. So washing my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and I don't want to put this everywhere. I'm just going to put it in some strategic spots, definitely in the center area, something like this. And I know that my cross is going to be kind of a little bit, I think, to the left of my center. So I definitely want some of this white to be on either side of my cross. So I'm going to just I'll make sure I have that happening, and definitely at the tops of some of these in through here. And as I'm putting this lightest layer of white, I'm being careful not to overpaint and not to take away a lot of the stuff that I've already done. So I think that happens to me a lot, and I'm sure it happens to other painters a lot, that you put all this work and effort, and then you start putting other details on top, and you lose all that work that you've previously done. So just be mindful of that and allow yourself to just kind of move slowly, and just concentrate on where you're putting things and what is going to have an effect on what. I feel like I want this to be even a little bit lighter in through here, so I'm just going to get some of this to be a little bit lighter, maybe put a little bit more of that light yellow on my brush. I feel like I wanted this section to be a little bit bigger, and I was a little too cautious with its size, so I'm just adding a little bit more, a little bit too much dead space in through there, so I'm just adding a little bit more cloud formation in through here. And then I will definitely step away from my canvas and look at it from a distance, because I know sometimes that helps me too. That helps me to see if there's any additional work that I want to do on it. So I would suggest the same for you. So once you've got your clouds on here, step away from it for a couple minutes, come back, see if there's any additional things that you want to do. And then we're going to be using our drawing utensil for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out something to draw with, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for the cross and the hill. I'm going to be using my number 2 pencil. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I do recommend before you start this step that your canvas is dry. I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers. We'll connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we will have a nice basic shape for a cross and a hill. So I'm going to guide you to find yourself the center of your canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So for me, I've already marked mine so I don't lose my spot. So somewhere in through here. We're going to make 2 markers that are going to be the width of the tall part of the cross. So the width of mine is about 1.25 inches. So I'm going to come to the right of this marker about 1/2 inch, give myself a mark, and about 3/4 inch to the left of that, give myself a mark. Now you might not have put your marks in exactly the same spot as I did, so I'm going to be using my brush as a measuring tool to guide me into making this symmetrical as I go up and down. So you can do the same thing, because if yours isn't exactly as mine, this will help you to keep your cross standing straight up. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to make a series of marks that are at this distance away from the edge of my canvas, and then whatever the distance for this one is, which is almost exactly the length of my brush. So I'm going to take on this left side, because I'm a little bit to the left of the center of my canvas, and I'm going to say, okay, well, this is how far out this one goes. So I can go up a bit, make myself another marker. I can go down a bit, make myself another marker. I'll put it in a light spot so you guys can see it. My cross itself is going to be really close to the top and the bottom. So if you want to, you can also mark the top and the bottom. So I can just kind of come up towards the top. I'm going to be about 1.25 inches away from the top of my canvas. So I can give myself a little marker there. And then I know that that's going to be the corner there. And then down at the bottom, I'm about not even a full inch away from the bottom of my canvas, maybe about 3/4 inch. So I'm pretty far down. Let's see, maybe, let me use a piece of chalk, because you guys aren't going to be able to see my pencil. So somewhere down in through here is the bottom of mine. Let me just make myself a couple of markers for my line there. So that's going to be a couple markers for my left hand side, and then on my right hand side, for me, it falls just about as long as my brush. So I can just go up in as many spots as I want, give myself a marker, and now I can just connect my markers. So I'm going to have a very long rectangle type of a shape. So I just hit my marker, and this cross can be made of a piece of wood, and wood can sometimes have little divots and might not be super straight. So if your rectangle doesn't turn out perfect, it's all right. We can just make adjustments to it, or you just leave it as is. And I'm going to just kind of make this coming down in through here, something like that. So that'll be my top part. crossbar of it, I'm going to have that if you come about halfway between the center of your canvas and the top of here. It's going to bring me right about in through here. This is almost maybe about 5.5 inches away from the top of my canvas, so something like that. And then down from here, I'm about 1.5 inches for the bottom part. And then I can just, again, use my measuring tool, my fancy measuring tool, and give myself a couple of markers that are about that distance away from the top. And I'm bringing mine out probably about 3 inches away from the edge of my canvas. So something like this. And then I can do a couple more markers. This is just an easy way to help you draw symmetrical objects without relying upon rulers and things of that nature. Maybe this is a little slanted, something like that. So now that I've got that, what I want to do, I brought this out to the corner and this out to the corner. I want to give just a little bit of dimension on the bottom. So first I'm going to connect these top ones with a horizontal line like that. And then the bottom ones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a diagonal line from here that kicks out just a little bit and is a little bit higher than this marker here. So just kick it out just a little bit like that. Just a little bit like that. And then I can give myself a little diagonal in, and then connect. Well, I feel like this is a little too low. Connect this in, something like that. And then just bring this over like that. And then my hill, I'm going to use my piece of chalk to draw that so you guys can see it because it's super dark down here. I'm going to come in from the bottom left about 2 inches, give myself a marker, and then on the right hand side I'm maybe about 2.5 inches in, and then I'm going to give myself just a little hill that's going to be a little higher than my than the bottom of my cross, something like this. And that's all I'm going to do for my outline. I am going to be using my round brush, my number 4 round brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can make any little fiddling adjustments that you feel are necessary. Take out the round brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for the hill and the cross. I'm going to be using my number 4 round brush. The colors I'm using are just green and black. So I'm going to paint my hill with green. I don't need to do anything fancy here, just kind of paint in the top edge of the hill. I am kind of getting a little bit non-perfect on purpose, so that way it looks like maybe there's some grass and stuff, but we do have another step to go on this hill. This is just getting us a base coat. My green will turn darker as it dries, simply because I have that dark blue underneath it. So I am mentally prepared for that, and I want you to be as well. So whenever you're painting on a dark surface, the color that you put on top of it is most likely going to turn darker as it dries, simply because of that color underneath. So once I've got that on there, I'm just going to wash my brush and dry it with a paper towel that was out of my reach. So I'm get another paper towel, and I'm going to paint this the cross with black. So I don't need to do anything fancy here. Just if you're going along the edges, I just put a tiny bit of water in my paint to thin it out a little bit. So when I go along the edges, the paint will sink into the crevices of the canvas, or the grooves, or the teeth, or however you want to call the texture of the canvas. I do want it to look kind of smooth along those edges, so by putting a little bit of moisture in my brush, that allows me to, it allows that paint to just sink right into the grooves of the canvas and allows me to get a nice smooth exterior line. We do again have another step to this, to the cross. So if your edges aren't as perfect as you want them to be, don't worry. We'll be, you'll have that additional step that will help you to make any little fiddling modifications on it that you want. But this is just a quick way to get those edges nice and clean or get that paint to kind of sink into those holes. The only risk you run by thinning out the paint to do this in this process is the paint will become a little transparent if you use too much water. So right in that center area, I wanted to show you that, is it's thinner so you can see that background color. I'm okay with that because I know that when I go to do my end color on my cross anyways, I'm going to be having lots of different tones in it, wood tones and sunlit kind of highlights and stuff like that. So any variations in this black color that that happened during this first base coat, I'm okay with. My goal here is to just kind of get my edges as clean as I want them, so I'm not struggling later to clean those up. But even if you had to clean them up later, that's fine too. Just giving you a process that will makes my process a little bit simpler. And then once I've got that part, now I'm just going to go do those side parts. And I'm going to, on these guys, just try and keep that little angled edge at that bottom left and right corner, because that's going to help to give this cross, we're going to have a little bit of dimension on it with this angled corner. It'll make it look like we're kind of seeing a little bit of the underside of it. So it'll make the point of view of the viewer a little bit kind of down from the cross. Just a little trick to, you know, to explain to the viewer where they're looking at this particular object from. So if I did this flat on and didn't want to have any of this angle at the bottom of here, it would probably put the perspective of the viewer up higher. So this little tiny detail I'm doing down below is on the bottom side of this cross is giving more story to the painting, and it's giving an angle at which the viewer is looking at. It's the point of view, which is a great thing to understand for adding dimension into your paintings. And then what I'm doing here, just kind of slowing down around those edges and just making sure this left side kind of lines up with the right side, even if it's not perfect. Just giving that illusion that they kind of line up will help me make it look as realistic as I want it to look. And then just kind of painting in this center. And then once you have this done, we're going to go back to using the, oops, I just went totally outside my lines. Clean that up. We're going to go back to using the large bristle brush. So you can put this brush away, take out the large bristle, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to put the first layer of the sunbeam on. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are white, light yellow, light blue, and maybe some dark blue as well. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be identifying exactly where my bright light is going to go, which is behind my cross. So I wanted to explain why I did it in this way, because typically I would finish the sunbeam or the sky before I put any objects in front of it. However, I wanted to place my sunbeam perfectly, and I needed to know where my cross was going to go to do that. So I didn't want to put my sun over here and then accidentally put my cross over here. I wanted my cross here. So I want to make sure that my sunbeam kind of is peeking out like this top right corner. The sun will also be shining light on our side of the cross. So after we put the cloth on the cross later, we'll put more sunbeam on top of that. So at this point, when we do this, we are going to bump into our cross, which is okay, because there's a future step that will be intended to clean up that cross and put some other colors on it. So I'm going to start with white. I'm going to get some white going on in through here, and then I'm going to use my light yellow and white to kind of pull these beams out. And then if I need any pull in from the blue to make the beams look like they're blending with the blue, I'll do that as well. So I'm going to start with a little bit of white paint on my brush, and I'm going to put this right in the brightest spot where I want. So I want it to really shine out, like right in through here. So I'm going to have my white right in through here, and then maybe a little bit down to the right. And you can see I'm bumping right into my cross, which I'm intended to do. I want to do that. So something like this, and then once I've got that white on there, it's a little steered towards that right hand side. Now I can start picking up a little bit of white with that light yellow, and this is going to be where the luminescent bright parts of that light beam are going to start to shine. So I want a little bit kind of coming up in through here. So I'm using this bristle brush because it allows me to pull that paint out pretty darn far, and it allows me to kind of dry brush, rub it out. You can certainly use this with a little bit of water on your brush too. The only trick, or part about doing it that way is you might pull up the paint off of the canvas. So you just want to, if you want to use water, just use a teeny tiny bit on your brush, and that will help you smooth out your marks. But just don't use a lot of pressure, don't use a lot of water, just a little bit to maybe get it to sink in to the holes, look a little bit smoother, but nothing terribly heavy with the water. And then I'm going to do the same thing down in through here. I want it pretty darn light around my cross, and then all the beams are going to come out of this nucleus type area. So whenever I'm drawing them out or pulling them out, I'm considering where they're coming from. So I'm going from somewhere up in through here, and maybe somewhere in through here. So you can make them come out wherever you want and as intense as you want. Just they'll be more narrow towards the tips and thicker towards this center area. So right now I'm just picking up a little some of that light yellow, and just being mindful, again, my nucleus is kind of over here, and that's where I want these beams to come out. I'm not using a lot of paint on my brush. That's another real kind of key here, is not to use a lot of paint on your brush. And if you are on your canvas seeing green tones, that might be because your light yellow has too much yellow in it. So if that's the case, just pick up a little bit more white in the mixture, or you can kind of counteract it with a little bit of red, make it a little bit more on the orangey side. But the yellow, if you have a lot of yellow and you're on top of blue, you might be sensing a touch of green in your painting. So I don't think that would necessarily be what you want. So if that is happening to you, you can certainly just add more white or more, just a tiny touch of red to your light yellow will turn it more of a pinky or peachy tone. That will make it less green on top of that blue. I think, and that's pretty good. That is getting me into the zone that I want, just making sure it looks like it's behind my cross, maybe a little bit more powerful up in this corner, up and through here. And again, I do have another step for the beam of light. So as you're going through yours, and this is the time, if you did feel that you needed it or wanted it to blend in a little bit more with your background, I just picked up a little bit more of my light yellow. You could certainly pick up some of those blue tones. So I could wipe my brush off, pick up maybe a little bit of my dark blue, say up in this corner, and pull the dark blue back into the beam. So that's a way to counteract if you're feeling like your background's not speaking well with your sunbeam. You can pull some of those colors from your background into the beam of light. So I'm taking my dark blue, going up in these corners, and then just kind of pulling them in the reverse direction towards the sun. So something like this, and just kind of pulling. That was probably a little bit too aggressive with the color, so I'm probably gonna pick up a little bit of light blue. Just get this in here, so I'm digging this in through here. And then I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of my light blue because that was a little bit too much for me. So light blue's going on my brush, and you can see how I can just kind of counteract that. Or if you felt that your background was too streaky or, you know, wasn't going in the direction that you wanted, this is how you can play with it. And then once you've got this done, oh, I'm digging this now. Once you've got this done, we are going to be using the bright brush for the next step. So I'm just gonna kind of fiddle with this for another minute or two, and then you can put this brush away, take out the bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna add a little dimension to the cross. I'm going to use my number 2 bright brush. The colors I'm gonna use are black, brown, red, yellow, and maybe a little bit of my tan. And what I'm gonna do, one, I'm just gonna kind of clean up my edges that I just totally bumped into while I was doing my sunbeam. I'm gonna put a little bit of a highlight on this kind of bottom edge of the cross, maybe a little bit of texture, a wood textural elements throughout the wood grain, and I might put, I just have this as kind of a flat piece in through here, but I'll probably just add a little bit of colored texture for the wood. So I'm going to start with just a tiny bit of black paint on my brush in order to just kind of clean up some of these edges. Again, I don't need it to be perfectly clean because it's a piece of wood, the one that I'm making, so I can really just allow it to have imperfect edges. Plus there's going to be a piece of cloth on it, and it's going to have you know, all kinds of other elements that are going to be distracting or pulling the viewer's attention away from any imperfections that it might have. But I do want to just kind of clean up some of these edges so it looks nice and finished. So that looks pretty good, maybe just a little bit up and through here. And again, this is going to have a highlight from the sun anyways. So once I've got that done, that satisfies my eye. Now I want to add a little bit of a highlight right where kind of these two marks are. That's going to be separate the backside from the underside. So I'm going to actually pick up, I'm going to wash my brush first, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown, yellow, and red at the same time on my brush. So this is going to give me kind of an on-the-fly lighter color, but of a wood tone, and I can just bring that right underneath here. I don't care about the detail here because I'm hiding it with the cloth. So don't worry about that part being anything. You could go straight through. It doesn't matter. I have, you know, the build of this cross in this section is not important because, again, there's going to be cloth over it. I'm just looking to have a highlight here. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of that tan. I just picked up a little bit of the light yellow, but I meant to do the tan. And I'm going to do just this underside, just a itty bitty bit. Put a tiny bit of water on my brush just to kind of spread that out a bit. So this is just giving me a little highlight on the underside of that, of the cross. So that's going to, as the viewer's looking at it, they will understand what's going on there. I'm picking up just a tiny bit more brown, just to smooth that out a little bit, and you can get it whatever tone you want, but I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good for me. And then down the back side of it, I'm just going to pick up those three colors, the brown, red, and yellow, and just kind of streak in some wood tones. So just whatever is comfortable to you. I'm just going to kind of scrub it in here. I don't want it to be as light as this underside here, so I'm just allowing myself to have just a little bit of texture on here so it doesn't look flat in tone or in in dimension. This will give me a little bit something more of substance than just a flat black silhouette of the cross. If you want a flat black silhouette, that's totally fine. But I wanted mine to have just a little bit more to it, so that's why I'm just adding the hint of this wood tone in here. But that's all I'm going to be doing for mine. So once you've got yours into a place that is suitable to you, again, we're going to have the cloth is going to be covering a lot of this. I went outside my lines into here. The cloth is going to be covering that as well too. Once you've got as many, you know, and again, it'll turn darker as it dries, so you might want to wait until it dries to cast your full judgment upon if you want to make any kind of changes to it or not. Once you've got this done, and if you went too light, you can always pick up a little bit of black and just kind of swirl in some black. I'm using kind of vertical little wavy lines to give myself a little bit of wood grain. But once you've got this done, we are going to use, I think I want to put my grass in place. So I'm going to use my number 6 round brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the hill. I said number 6 round, but I don't have a number 6 round today. It's a number 4 round. So I'm going to be using my number 4 round brush to do this step. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, green, yellow, and my light yellow. And what I'm going to do, I just want to make this into a nice grassy hill that has a little bit of dimension on it. I'm going to put a shadow behind my cross. And then I'm just going to put some grass in through here. So I'm going to start with my shadow behind my cross. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and green, just a touch of green, and my light source is up here. So my light source is a little to the right, so I'm going to put my shadow kind of leaning a little bit down to the left, not a lot, but a little bit. And I'm just going to give my tap in with the green and the black, something like that for my shadow. The light source is very powerful, so if I want there to look like there's some longer pieces of grass, I can pick up a little bit of water on my brush with a touch of black or black and green, and I can pull up some longer pieces of grass, maybe down towards the bottom of the hill. I'm just being very carefree and messy with this. I will add some lighter tones to add little bits of highlights and stuff from the light source, but I wanted to have a little bit of silhouetted, couple of pieces of silhouetted grass, which will again speak to not only the length of the grass, but also kind of allowing that light source to have to show its impact on the surroundings. You can put some little dark marks in wherever you want to just kind of insinuate little pops of pieces of ground that have different tones in them. I'm going to now pick up a little bit of brown, and I'm going to work my way towards the light. So I just picked up some brown, allowing for some earth tones to be part of this grass. You can really have fun doing whatever you want. When I'm doing some kind of wild piece of landscape like this, I really just let my brush go wild and say, okay, well, I'm just doing little grassy pieces. I tend to work from the dark to the light, letting various textures kind of occur. Now I'm going to pick up green and yellow on my brush to start to pop in different tones of the green. So I know I started with the green oxide as my base color, and now I'm just allowing for some little greener tones to occur as well. So green and yellow is where I'm headed right now. I can even put some on the other side of some of these dark pieces. That's going to make it look like that light is kind of shining through. And I try and be very inconsistent. You can see I'm just kind of making dabs and dashes, little kind of so every now and again some longer pieces to make it look like there's little, you know, different lengths of grass and stuff. But of course you can make it into whatever you want, maybe a little bit back in through here. Now I'm going to pick up maybe a little bit of green, yellow, and that light yellow color that we had created earlier. This'll give me some nice pops of bright little marks of the grass. This is going to be where the sunshine is going to have the effect on these little grass pieces. So I'm thinking tops of grasses, I'm thinking the edge of the hill, because the edge of the hill is on that side. If you want there to be like little tufts of grass, like wherever you have a dark area, that can be the longer grass, and then you can put these light areas as, you know, maybe little shorter grass patches. But again, just kind of giving this diversity in the colors is going to, I'm putting light stuff on the other side of the pole, so the pole kind of sticks out too. But having this diversity in the colors of the grass, again, is going to just speak to how powerful the light source is. If it's, you know, casting a really bright light onto these pieces, what pieces are in front of other pieces. So it just, you can really just have fun with adding these kind of textural elements and making it into whatever is, you know, speaking to you. And then once you've got this done, again, I'm just making some fun textural type of marks. I'm trying to keep it lighter right in through here, and then darker kind of down towards the left and right of the hill, so our eye gets drawn right to the cross. But you can certainly, and there's going to be the cloth is going to be draping over this as well. But once you've got this into a place that is comfortable for you, we are going to be using we're going to go back to using the bright brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out the bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the cloth that's draped over the cross. I'm using my number 2 bright brush. The colors I'm going to use are definitely white, light yellow, tan, probably a little bit of brown, and maybe a little bit of my dark blue. And I'm not sure what other colors. I might actually use some red too, but I'm not sure yet. So what I want to do is I'm going to do an outline, or kind of a quick sketch of where I want it to go, using this brush and a little bit of thinned out paint to just have the flow of the fabric the way that I want. And then we're going to tweak the tones in it to make it look like it's a white cloth that is being lit up by the sun in some parts and shaded on the back side by itself or by the wrinkles. So I'm going to start with a little bit of my tan and a little bit of water. So I'm going to just thin out my tan a little bit, so I can almost have like a wash or a glaze that I can use to sketch this out. I definitely want it draping over the right hand side, so I can find a place maybe somewhere in through here, and then just kind of bring it down like this and across this way. It's gonna kind of come over the top like this, and it's gonna totally be engulfing this front area in through here. So I'm just using this watered down tan color in order to get some transparency to it, and to try and tell myself, you know, how I want this to kind of drape and where I want it to go. The thicker the paint is, the less translucent or transparent that area will look. So we'll build that thickness of the paint as we go through the process. So I'm going to have it kind of draping over this side somewhere about here, and we're going to just bring this down kind of in through here, and then maybe it's going to come back up and cross right over in through here. So this will be another section, kind of, maybe this one kind of attaches to here, So you can see how I'm just kind of creating those ripples of the fabric. So maybe there's a piece that comes, oops, I don't want to do that, goes behind this part of the cross right here, and then maybe this is actually part of this piece. So the cloth itself is theoretically going to be just one piece of cloth, but it can wrap around here in many different wrinkles and stuff. So I want a piece of it to kind of come over in through here. So this will be just maybe another thick part of it that just kind of crinkles down behind this piece in through here. So you can see how the thicker the pieces are, the more it's gonna, or the thicker the paint is, the more it's gonna look like the fabric's kind of bunched up. So I just put a little bit more thinned out paint on my brush so I can thin out that area. So that's a nice start up and through there. So again, just picking up a little bit more paint. So if I have it kind of draping down like this, maybe it kind of bunches in through here, and that's where it starts to just splay out down the cross. So I'm going to take it from here, and this is going to be kind of my exterior profile to it as it's coming over and in front of this guy here. Let's see, how far down do I want it to go? Maybe somewhere in through here. So this is going to be, I'm just kind of telling myself how far down I want this to kind of just drape over here. So I can just give myself almost like a kind of a ripply type of wavy line kind of coming down here, and I'm going to show you how to make this wave that I just made into distinct kind of ripples in that fabric. So that'll be that side. I want it to kind of come out in through here, so maybe this kind of comes like that. This is going to be the outside edge. I know some of this is difficult to see right now because I'm using such transparent paint, but that's going to be my process to get it into that fabric look. So now that I've got this kind of exterior, I can, well, I'll build that in a second. Let me just come back down here. I want to finish out where I want the edge of it to go. So I'm going to have this kind of rippling down like this, and it's going to have maybe a couple of different tiers to it. Maybe even farther, maybe a little bit like this. And that'll just kind of, oops, my brush is getting away from me. Hold on a second. My brush just totally got away from me because I wasn't paying attention. Oh, there we go. Let's push that back a little bit. Pushed it back with some water. So now that I've got that outline in through there, I'm gonna just take, again, that watered down tan, and now I can just start to, like I did up top, I can start to build these ripples in the fabric. So if I want it to kind of bunch up a little bit, I will put a little bit more paint on there. So that'll allow me to have a thicker piece of fabric in through there. I am going to add more color to this again, but wherever I have one of these little indents, that can be a thick piece of fabric. So I can allow myself the freedom to know that those are going to be maybe the thicker pieces of fabric that are bunched up, and I just kind of am telling myself in my head that. So as I build this fabric, I'll know that those are the spots that I want to be a little bit thicker. And in through here, this is going to be kind of thick down at the end, and then get a little bit thinner as it bunches underneath that. Down here, this is the underside of the fabric, or the other side of the fabric. That's probably going to be, I'm going to have a little, I don't like this outline here, so I'm going to just get rid of that right now. So I've got the underside of the fabric over here and the outside of the fabric, something like that. And then over on this side, I want a big drape kind of coming down on from the other side of the cross. So again, this is just my light, or my tan watered down. I want this to go way over almost to the bottom of my canvas. So I'm going to just kind of drape this over. And I want this to get like tucked behind this grass. I might end up just redoing a little bit of my grass right over this so this looks like it's tucked behind the grass. But I'll see how that plays out as I finish up this this piece of fabric. And then I feel like I want a piece of fabric kind of coming in front and kind of draping in front of the grass or on top of that little hill. So something like this. This drape is not going to be, the fabric's not going to be super see-through. So that's great how I've got it kind of flowing in the wind. It's over in front of the hill over here. Now I just need to add my tones to it so I can get it to look a little bit more realistic. So the white that I'm going to use is on that side of the fabric, so it'll be kind of all the edges in through here, maybe a couple little peekaboo spots in through here, or on this right side edge, and then maybe up in through here. And as I come towards the back side, I can use darker colors. I can use my tan, I can use my dark blue, I can use, you know, varying tones to just get it to get darker on this side. So I'm going to start with a little bit of white on my brush to get my whitest areas where I want them. And again, I'm not using a lot of paint on my brush, just allowing myself to let this be speak as white fabric, but it's also transparent because of the light source. So you're going to see all the stuff underneath it. It's going to have lots of effects from the sun. Just kind of pulling these lighter tones down here. Down this guy right here is going to get a lot of white. So I'm using this kind of brush because it allows me to have the ability to kind of draw a clean line, but yet also blend it out into the neighboring kind of ripple, if you will. And then I'm just going to kind of allow for a little bit more whiteness in through here, maybe a couple on these guys down in through here, like they're the underside. And then this side over here, I'm going to put a lot of white over here, especially kind of coming up like this. And then back behind these guys in through here. I might actually I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light yellow as this goes behind these grassy things, just so I get a little bit different tone, just so it looks like it's hiding behind there. I might pick up a little bit of the grass colors to just make sure that fades in there. That looks pretty good. Anywhere else that I want lightness, probably a little bit of a sliver right in through here, as if it's it's being illuminated from the other side. That's going to get this piece to look darker. That looks nice. And just give it a little bit more lightness up and through here. And then I think that's good for the white. I'm going to go into my light yellow now to just kind of get myself out of the white zones and into a little bit darker zones. So this is light yellow on my brush right now. And we're going to have another highlight on the fabric up in through here from the sun that I will do in a future step. But this is, again, just kind of getting these guys. That's going to be dark. This looks good in through here. And I think just a little bit of this light yellow, maybe kind of on a couple of these back sides in through here. So again, just little bits of the light yellow. And then I'm just going to go into some darker tones now. So as I go into the darker tones, and you can see how I'm just really allowing for these long kind of gestural marks. I'm not overdoing it. I'm actually going to start with, I think I want to pick up, I feel like I want to pick up some of my light blue. I didn't say I was going to use light blue, but I feel like I want to use a little bit of light blue on these guys up in through here. So just a little hint of the light blue. I'm putting a tiny bit of water on my brush too, so I can maintain the transparency. So that's a little bit of light blue. As I come down this back side, again, just a little bit of water on my brush with the light blue right now. The light blue is going to put these stick it into the shadows a little bit back here, and maybe a little bit down in through here. All right, that's good for the light blue. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dark blue plus my tan. So dark blue plus tan, which I think that's the combination I said. Dark blue plus tan, and this is going to get these back. And if it turns too blue, like that's a little bit too blue for me, I'm picking up a touch of brown too. That's going to be your own preference. If it, you know, turns too brown or too blue, just pick up a little bit of brown, and that'll help you kind of neutralize it, and just kind of keep playing with those tones until you've got that that subtle. Just think of it as white in the shadows. So that's kind of, you know, in the shadows of itself, I guess. So that's where my brain is going to as I'm doing this. I just don't want it to be too bright. I just want it to be kind of subtle and allowing for those, you know, tones to take on the shadowy effects. Again, my combination right now is dark blue, brown, and tan to get into these shadowy crevices of the fabric on this back side. And you could even, if you felt that you know needed to go darker, you could even pick up a tiny bit of black, which I didn't know I wanted to use, but you can use black to just kind of enhance some of these little crevices if you want to in that fabric. That, you know, I wouldn't go crazy with it, but if you felt that you could get away with a little bit deeper in these dark areas that you've already kind of established, or you need that darkness to kind of enhance that shadow, feel free to do so. I'm going back to my dark blue, brown, and tan. Let me just kind of get this little color in through here to get this section right in through here. And again, I'm thinking that it's transparent. It's got you know, some dark spots, some light spots. I'm using the colors in my atmosphere to dictate kind of what shades I'm using, but of color that I'm using, but I'm also knowing that this is intended to look like white in the shadows. So that's where I'm coming up with these grays and blues, or, you know, like varying shades of grays and blues to hit this. I'm picking up a little bit of my light yellow just to smooth that out a little bit. It's looking pretty good. And then I just need this area here. So a little bit more of that tan blue and tan dark blue and brown. This needs to, I think, kind of disguise that part of the cross a little bit more. And then just as I'm coming down here, I just want it to really look soft. So if I need to blend it out a little bit more, I do. If I feel I need to, you know, add a little bit more, maybe a little bit more darkness under here just to get that to kind of set back underneath the other one, I can do that. Picking up a tiny bit more black just to allow this one to kind of fade in through here, putting a little bit of water on my brush now to blend out this area in through here. And now I'm picking up a little bit more of that tan plus a touch of water. So, oops, there goes my paper towel. So this is the time where I'm just kind of looking to just smooth out all those little ripples. And you can add more white if you want to. Like I want to add a little bit more vibrancy over on this side, so I just added a little bit more white to my brush. And then I just need to, you know, feel like it's doing what I want it to do. Is it explaining to the viewer that it's coming around this part, it's kind of draping over there, it's in the wind, it's catching the wind. Maybe this needs to connect to that little piece. You know, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for now to see that it is telling the story that you want it to tell? Does it look like it's in the wind? Does it look like it's got some movement to it? Do you feel like you need to do anything else to it? Like add more, shadows or highlights to it? Look at it from a distance. And that's always such a good thing to do. And then once you feel that you've got it into a place that is acceptable for your visual pleasure, again, I'm probably gonna look at mine from a distance just to make sure I've got it doing everything that I want it to do. If you feel that you needed to or wanted to add a little bit more to back here, you could always just pick up a touch of your green, your grass colors, your green, yellow, and white, and just kind of pop up little bits of those too. So I didn't say I was using those colors either. So just a little green, yellow, and white, just to kind of make sure that that overlap, it looks like the cloth is in front of it. And then you just make any little adjustments you want. I just picked up a little bit of my dark blue to enhance this piece of cloth. And then we are going to be using, I feel like I want to use my large bristle brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this bright brush away, take out the large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish the sunbeam. I'm gonna be using my large bristle brush. You could certainly use a smaller brush. This is just where my comfort zone is. So I tend to use a little bit larger brushes than the normal person would use for certain things. So if you wanna use a smaller brush, feel free to do so. This is what I'm using. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be using white, light yellow, yellow, and red. And if I use any other colors or want to use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to enhance the brightness right here, and I'm going to get it to overlap on top of the cloth and the cross, and I'm going to pull colors across it. So I'm going to start the best thing I can tell you here is use very little bit of paint. I'm going to be using white, then my light yellow, then a touch of yellow, then a touch of red. And it's going to give it this magical glow. So I'm going to start with a little bit of white, like just a teeny bit on my brush. And I'm going to just enhance this little center area. And I'm going to start to rub it out over my my cloth and my cross. Apparently I can't talk while I'm doing this. Just getting it to blend out so I have this kind of glowy highlight on them. So something like this. I'm telling you, I have hardly any paint on my brush. I'm just really allowing for this to light up and kind of illuminate, put this glow behind them. So now I can pick up a little bit of my light yellow, and again, teeny tiny bit on my brush, and I can take this and go just a little bit outside of that center area, if that's the center, and I can start actually pulling this out a little bit. So just a little pull out, but remember it's got to go in kind of the similar direction that you've already started pulling your beams in. So something like this, and I'm just kind of lightly pulling it out. I can pull it out over these guys. And again, if you need water or something to assist you, just pick up a tiny bit and maybe even wipe it off on your paper towel. Give it a squeeze in your paper towel, and that'll help you pull those longer or just kind of get them to soften. So something like that. Don't be afraid of it, just use a little. So be a little afraid of it, but just use a little. So a tiny bit more of the light yellow, just getting kind of a little bit more around these edges and through here. And right now I'm thinking sunbeams. I'm not thinking cloth anymore. My brain has shifted to sunbeams right now. So again, pulling them out in the direction that I originally started. So that looks good. This one is probably, yeah, that looks good. Okay, so then I'm gonna add, this is where the cautionary color comes into play. I'm going tiny bit of yellow and white. the deep yellow, not my light yellow. So a tiny bit, I mean an itty bitty, itty bitty, itty bitty bitty bit. Even wipe it off on your paper towel, itty bitty bit. And then I can put this glow kind of on the exterior edges. I don't want a lot. I'm just doing a itty bitty bitty bit. So don't have a lot of water on your brush either, just a tiny bit to illuminate this kind of glow area. And then you can do the same thing with a tiny bit of red on your brush. So itty bitty bit. Oops, I just put green on my brush. Hold on. I need to wash my brush because green will not work here. So tiny bit, wash my brush. I can pick up an itty bitty bit of red. I mean just an itty bitty bit. I'm wiping it off, and then I can just put, oh, I just picked up a little bit of white off of my paper towel. I can just put that hint of a glow, just a hint of a glow. And you can, you know, if you feel like you want to put more, like I feel like I want to put more right on top of the cross in through here, so I can always add more. It's just really tough to take away once it's on there. So I'm adding a little bit more of the reddish glow in through here, or orangey kind of glow, and it's just so faint. I just don't, you know, I don't want it to overpower. I just want it to illuminate a little bit and give that magical glow to it. So that looks good in through there. I'm like hesitant to do anything more because I like it the way that it is. So I'm gonna wash my brush, and if you feel like you want to do any more, like I feel as though I could use a little bit more of my sunbeam kind of poking out the back underneath here, I can totally just pick up a little bit more white and just kind of put it around that edge. Just make sure I'm not, I don't want it to look like I'm outlining this, but if I do feel that there is any, you know, if I want to enhance that, those beams, those light beams, I can certainly take this opportunity to do so. So you can use, you know, just the white, or you can use your light yellow or your blue, or whatever colors are going to work for you. Anything that you want to do at this point to enhance these beams. You can even bring them across in front of your clouds if you wanted to. If you felt that you wanted some extra light coming around the cross, you can certainly add a little bit more white, and then just again pull it out gently. You could even, you know, put more in front of your, or going over your clouds. This is your step to just kind of finalize this. And if you feel that you want to add more, pulling over those clouds into that sky, whatever you want, make it as powerful as you want. This is the step to do it on. So if you want this, I feel like this back right here could use a little bit more lightness, so I just put a little bit more white behind the cross, and I'm just pulling it out just a little bit more. The lightness is of course going to enhance, it's going to make that cross stand out even more. So just, you know, be cautious with the amount that you do, but just make sure you do enough to have as much power in it as you want. And if you want to, you know, put a tiny bit of water on your brush as you keep adding these layers, feel free to do so. Just be careful that the water again can lift previous layers of paint if they're not fully dry, so just be cautious about that. And then once you've got this done, you can of course make any additional adjustments that you feel would benefit your painting. And we have one little step left to go, and it's going to be with the small brush. Let me just kind of put a little bit more lightness right on this corner of here. It'll be with the small brush. So once you've got this done, I just want to diffuse this edge of the cross. So I just kind of put a little bit more lightness over it. You can always keep adding layers until you've got it as bright as you want. Just start out slow and just add them as you feel they would benefit you. And then once you've got this done, you can wash or put this brush away, take out a small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the lower left or the lower right. I think I'm gonna go lower left on this one with light blue. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you of course can sign yours. Oh, light blue and dark blue. That light blue is too light, so light blue and dark blue. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you of course can sign yours however you want. You can make up a fun symbol, you can sign it on the back. Whatever you'd like to do is up to you because it's your painting and you get to make those decisions all on your own. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very angelic painting, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.